Hello and welcome to the Slingshot channel for some badass bolt tips tests with the mighty Siege crossbow that has a magazine. Just for those who don't know, the Siege is like the new version of the Adder, like the big brother of the Adder. It has a compound throwing arm, and now it also has a magazine from Gogun for 7 bolts. And the beauty is that it has like about twice as much energy as the regular Adder, and therefore it's a very serious hunting and tactical self-defense crossbow. And today we want to look at 2 completely different high penetration tips made for different purposes. First we have the bodkin tips here. As you see, those are super sharp and also really heavy because they're for the Siege, not for the Adder. Therefore they're longer and much heavier, bringing the bolt weight up to about 15 grams. And they are actually hardened to about 60 Rockwell, so they're really heat treated. And therefore they should be able to penetrate like through steel and also through very hard materials. So we will find that out. And these actually are variants of the famous heavy single bevel Edgetac tips that I've presented to you before. These are the 2 Edgetac single bevel arrow tips. As you see, they're really heavy. They're like flying hatchets. But of course they're made for full-size, full-power crossbows that you need to cock like with a cocking rope or a winch or something. So the Siege actually would not be powerful enough to throw an arrow that heavy, and therefore they made a variant, and we're now having prototypes here to test. So this goes back to the work of Dr. Ed Ashby, who spent years and years of research about the impact of arrows on large game in Africa. So, and he found that the single bevel ones, as you can see, they're single bevel. So they're only sharp, let me see if the camera focuses right. They're only sharp on one edge here, and they're also made to twist. So when they enter the body of an animal, they're supposed to twist, and when they hit bone, this twisting motion should actually help breaking up the bone. And therefore Dr. Ashby, just by trial and error, found out that this is the way to go. And he also said they need to be very heavy, and this is the case here. The center of gravity of these arrows is very much towards the front. Very much so, because they actually go in up to here with the solid steel. So this bolt is actually weighing 23 grams, which is about as heavy as a full bolt for a full power, full size crossbow. So they're short but very mean. So this would be used against someone who is armored and you just want to penetrate it, like armored behind a steel shield or something like this. And this is supposed to be really ideal for like hunting and also self-defense against people that probably wear a t-shirt but nothing else. And therefore we also have different targets that we're going to test this against. We need a gel block that we need to find out how they really turn inside of the body of the opponent. We need a target with a bone, and we also need an armored target that protected with steel and clothes underneath. And we will test both of them against these 3 different types of ballistic gel targets. So this is target number 1, a really long piece of 20% ballistic gelatin. And we're using this without any protection, since we only want to find out how the bolts behave inside of the body. So we will see if it twists, and if it does, then how much does it twist? And how deep does it actually penetrate in comparison to each other? Alright, we're shooting the bodkins first. Load them into the magazine. Let's go. All right. Okay, for some reason the same thing happened. I'm going to do it one more time, and this time I'm going to shoot a little bit to the left, since they seem to be exiting out to the right. Now it works. It is embedded in the block. Okay, here you can see the wound canals. Actually, the 2 of them that exited here. And interesting is that the veins actually, you can see how gooey this mass is. It stripped off the veins and they're still inside here. So the bolts kept traveling without one vein, and that is also probably the reason why they escaped out here. And here, very interesting, you can see that actually the veins folded down in the gelatin because of the high resistance. And you can see that this thing penetrated super deep into it. I mean, penetration is, I'd say, about 50 centimeters. That's a lot of penetration for such a small crossbow. Okay, now we're loading in the vicious Edgetacs. Oh, it went all the way through. Okay, it actually went all the way through, but it left on the top. So I think we have to aim a little bit lower this time. Okay, we'll do it again. All right. Okay, as you can clearly see, it penetrated a lot deeper than the bodkin tip. And it also turned. It's clear that it twisted. You can actually see the twisting wound canal here. So it entered here on a wound canal that was like almost like straight. And then, I hope that you can see this well. Let me see, what's the best angle to film this? Here you can hopefully see that it was twisting. So it came in like so, and then it twisted to the right and kept twisting, and now I think it turned almost a full 180 degrees, probably 150 degrees. So it went in like this, and then it turned up to about here, with this kind of penetration. Wow. And penetration is more like, I would say 70 centimeters rather than 50 centimeters. So this is the bodkin, and this is how deep the heavy broadhead penetrated. Wow. So here was the place where the other broadhead landed. So energy was almost spent when it exited the block, but you can see that the veins are actually intact, and that is because the broadheads cut the way for the veins. And I think that's one of the main reasons why it's penetrating deeper into the gel than the other one, since the veins actually really do what they're supposed to do. They create resistance in air, but also in the target. And this brings us to the next target that we're going to shoot at, and that is one of Rolfie's cow bones that he actually finished some time ago, and I put it inside of ballistic gelatin. And this is going to be an interesting one because one, maybe, hopefully, the bodkin will do some damage to it, and second, who knows what the twisting thing does, although I drilled actually a hole into this here to poke like a little pin to it so that it would stay upright in the bucket. But on the other hand, I learned that this is super thick and super solid. So I'm not sure if the little siege crossbow can really penetrate it, but we will find out. And we'll be shooting the bodkin first. Okay. I know, folks, it's super hard to believe, but it actually crashed through the bone. Look at that. I did not expect this. I mean, look at that bone. You can see the hole that I drilled in, how thick it is. And it went through both sides. Wow. Okay, and now the Edgetacs. Whoa. We'll try one more because this seems to have hit a little bit too way to the left. Maybe it got deflected or so, but I want a full hit. All right, that's better. Or I'll try one more. Okay, that was straight on. Let's take a look. Okay, so as we see, all bolts actually penetrated through the bone. Well, two of them actually got deflected a little bit, but that didn't really mean that they did not do any damage. And I will now dissect this whole thing to see what kind of damage we really did to the bone. This is super interesting. So see, this one, the bodkin, actually punched a clean hole through the entire thing and came out, and actually the tip almost flew off on its own account. Whereas these here, see, they did exactly what Dr. Ashby predicted. They actually broke the bone because of the twisting motion. Can you see that it really splintered off pieces of the bone? And that one that hit it right here, like in the thickest part of the bone, like here, it did the same. Can you see that it actually cracked the bone here and penetrated deeply into the joint? Wow. Honestly, I did not expect this kind of damage from a cheap little crossbow with just 75 joule of energy. Amazing. You can actually see how deep this one penetrated when you compare it to this. So this means that it was almost penetrating the joint, the thick joint here, all the way, and it's stuck in solid. Whoa. I'm not sure how I can get this out. I'll probably have to saw the whole bone apart. And this one, of course, brutal, brutal, brutal. Okay, now we're preparing our last test, and this will be a Sir Galahad simulator. So first, of course, comes a layer of skin, and that's represented by this very thick furniture grade leather here. It's probably tougher than the skin actually. Okay, put this around here. And then what we're doing is we're putting clothes on it, represented by 2 layers of cotton, like so. Let's fix this with some rubber bands so it's not falling off. And then we're using armor, which in this case 1mm steel that I bent a little bit so it works like a harnish. Put this around the block here. It's fully protected, and we secure it again with rubber bands. Oh. With a rubber band. Okay. All right. Sir Galahad, I salute you. Now for this test, I actually expect that the bodkins will do a better job, simply because they are specifically designed for this purpose, crunching, crushing through armor. We'll find out, and probably the heavy broadheads won't fare as good. But we'll see. As we've already seen today, these bolts are always good for a surprise or two. The Galahad simulator. Test it. Let's test its features. Okay. Whoa. I think the tip went on and crashed into my fish pond. Okay, let's fire one more of them. A little bit lower. Okay. Let's look at the damage. Yeah, look at that. It penetrated all the way, unbelievable. And see, the first one, I was actually right. See, the veins got stripped off here on the entrance. I was actually right. This one, actually, the deceleration effect from the veins was so high that the tip actually flew off when the bolt was stopped to a halt. And with this one, there was probably a little more glue in the insert, so it held on a little better. But as you can see, it really punched clean holes through the whole thing. Wow, that's a dead Galahad. Now I turned the target around a little bit so that we have a fresh face in the steel, and we're using the Edgetacs now. And of course we don't expect the same kind of penetration that we saw on the broadheads. Whoa! I think we have the same penetration, but the effect will be so much more dreadful. Now, believe it or not, it crashed all the way through the steel and through everything else, of course. And see, it pokes out here. So the penetration, even though the amount of damage that it caused was far greater than for the bodkin. Look what happened. And you know what? It even twisted. I'm not sure if you can see this, but it went in this way and then it twisted in the gel and actually did a 180-degree turn. Clearly, you can clearly see this on the wound canal that it cut. That is amazing. Wow. Wow. See, this is the wound canal that it crashed. But also, as you can see, is that it actually cut the shaft of the other arrow, of the bodkin arrow, while it was going through. So it crashed through here, twisted, and then cut this inside of the gelatin. Fairly clean cut. It's unbelievable. Wow. And look at the damage. I mean, these are the damages caused by the bodkins. And this is actually the damage that is caused by the broadhead. And you can clearly see that the size of the holes inside here is so much bigger. The wound surface is so much bigger. So these are clearly the more deadly bolts. But you can also see that the Edgetac, because it's unhardened steel, suffered a little bit. So I think it can be salvaged. You can easily sharpen it. It's not so hard. But see, the hardened bodkin tip is completely pointy. It didn't lose any of its sharpness, and that is because it's tempered. It's actually heat treated and hardened, and therefore it was able to penetrate the steel without any problem. Yeah, as you can see, you can easily scratch it. Now, what is the conclusion of today's test? Well, first of all, I'm absolutely astounded by the amount of firepower that you get when you buy like a Siege with a magazine. 7 bolts with such a quick repeating action, and then the devastating impact that it does in such a small little crossbow package. I'm absolutely in love with it. And in terms of the bolts, well, they have different purposes. So this is exactly the right tip if you want super good penetration through hard stuff. Like if you need to shoot through car doors or whatnot. I don't know. And this one absolutely is the best for hunters. I'm completely convinced that this is the deadliest tip that has ever been developed for a crossbow that size. I mean, you saw that how well it performed against anything that we shot it against flesh, against bone, even against steel. This is an amazing broadhead that causes a lot more damage than a field tip or even a bodkin tip like this. Since this is a hunting tip and this is warfare. So, I think we will offer both of them and import them and then offer them for the crossbow lines that we're selling. So, I hope you like this, because that's it for today. Thanks, and bye-bye. It's just amazing, isn't it?